You have been lied to your entire life. You have been trained, conditioned, and broken into obedience like a mule that believes its chains are made of iron, when in reality they are made of straw. You have been taught to worship reason, to worship moderation, to worship the so-called wisdom of balance and humility. And because of this, you live like a pawn on a board where others command the moves. You do not command yourself. You believe in caution when the battlefield rewards audacity. You cling to realism when power is seized through delusion. And you stand still, paralyzed, as the ruthless march forward with weapons forged not from truth, but from the ability to bend truth to their advantage. The painful reality is this: the world has no interest in rewarding your honesty, your rational calculations, or your modest expectations. The world rewards the ones who demand reality to yield before them. You think that success belongs to the careful, the realistic, the sensible. You are wrong. Success belongs to the delusional, those who can convince themselves of their own invincibility. By extension, force others to believe it too. You have been trapped in a prison of self-doubt, precisely because you cling to reason like a dying man clings to driftwood. You confuse rationality with strategy. But strategy, as I have seen in war and in courts, is not about reason. It is about perception. And perception is shaped not by reality, but by belief, even delusional belief. You are blind because you cling to ideals. Ideals of fairness. Ideals of equality. Ideals of recognition earned through merit. These are fairy tales for children. You have swallowed the poison of morality as if it were strategy. I tell you now, morality is the leash placed around your neck by those who profit from your obedience. You have believed that playing fair will allow you to ascend. Yet fairness is a phantom on the battlefield. No general who won a war ever did so by playing fair. They won by deception, by flanking, by ambush, by cutting off supply lines, by forcing the enemy to drown in illusions while they themselves advanced with merciless clarity. You have been conditioned to bow before authority, to seek permission before you move, to hesitate at the very moment when attack is necessary. You were taught to wait for opportunity instead of manufacturing it, taught to wait for approval instead of seizing command. This conditioning has made you weak. You live as a soldier without a commander. And worse, without the will to command yourself. You imagine you are rational, but your so-called rationality is nothing but cowardice dressed in intellectual clothes. You are blind because you refuse to admit that strength is an illusion that must be performed until it becomes reality. You wait to feel ready. You wait to feel certain. And so you never move. The truth, the brutal truth, is that the strongest empires were built not on what was possible, but on what was demanded. Rome did not rise because it calculated safe probabilities. It rose because it believed with delusional conviction that the entire known world could and should bend to its command. Alexander was not reasonable when he believed himself the son of a god, but his delusion carried his army across continents. Napoleon was not cautious when he crowned himself emperor in the presence of the Pope. He was delusional, and his delusion bent millions to his vision. Delusion is the engine of power, and you, clinging to reason, have nothing but rust and excuses. I once warned that men are more ready to judge by the eye than by the hand, for everyone sees, but few touch. Remember this: appearances command more power than reality itself. Your belief in your own inevitability, even when divorced from logic, infects the eyes of those who see you. They begin to doubt themselves and obey you, not because you are objectively stronger, but because you radiate the aura of untouchable certainty. Strategy dictates that you must first conquer yourself with delusion, then conquer others with its performance. Self-belief, even DELUSIONAL, is a psychological operation, the most effective weapon in the war of perception. But let me expose your weakness further. You have believed that humility makes you likable, and that likability will bring you allies. You have believed that patience will be rewarded with recognition. You have believed that merit, quiet work, and talent will eventually force the world to acknowledge you. These are the lies that enslave you. The battlefield of life is not a contest of merit. It is a contest of perception and force. If you do not seize the narrative, others will write it for you. If you do not inflate your own command, you will be conscripted into someone else's. You call this unfair. I call it war. You cling to caution because you fear the cost of failure. But have you considered the cost of submission? The cost of years wasted in service to someone else's ambition? The cost of dying without ever commanding even your own destiny? That is the heavier cost, the silent cost, the invisible defeat that corrodes you day by day until nothing remains. When you are cautious, when you are realistic, when you are rational, you guarantee your role as pawn. You fear the wound of failure, but you should fear more the slow suffocation of obedience, the erosion of your own will, the silent attrition of your soul. I tell you now with merciless clarity, the battlefield is indifferent to your excuses. No army halts because you were tired, unprepared, or uncertain. The battle begins with or without you, and if you do not advance, you will be trampled beneath those who do. Delusional self-belief is not madness. It is discipline. It is a weapon forged to terrify hesitation into silence. It is the strategy of the commander who understands that certainty is more powerful than truth. You do not need to be objectively invincible. You need to believe it until all others submit to the illusion. This is your turning point. If you remain rational, you will remain irrelevant. If you demand proof before action, you will remain invisible. If you wait to feel certain, you will rot in obscurity. But if you embrace delusional self-belief, if you seize the weapon of certainty even when it contradicts the evidence of your circumstances, you will become untouchable. Power bends not to those who calculate probabilities, but to those who dictate them. Success belongs not to the cautious, but to the delusional who march forward as if defeat were impossible. The world follows certainty, not truth. And until you embody that certainty, you will remain nothing. You imagine that reason protects you from collapse. That logic will keep you safe. Yet logic has never built an empire. Logic has never crowned a king. Logic has never burned the enemy's fleet to cinders. Only delusion has done that. The delusion that one man can command the impossible, and by sheer force of conviction, bend armies, nations, and circumstances to his will. You cling to rationality as if it were a fortress. But it is not a fortress. It is a cage. And while you pace inside that cage, calculating your every move, others march freely, setting the battlefield on fire. I will tell you why you remain weak, because you still believe in the honesty of others. You believe they operate with fairness, that they will reward you for patience, that they too are bound by reason. They are not. They are playing a war game you refuse to see. They are employing psychological operations while you are still sharpening your wooden sword. They understand what you do not. That power is not a contest of facts. It is a contest of domination. They know that to command the crowd you must not simply reflect reality, you must distort it, inflate it, weaponize it. They believe they deserve more, and by believing it with certainty, they make it real. You think humility is a virtue. I tell you it is camouflage for the powerless. Humility is the disguise of pawns who lack the will to seize command. You worship humility because it costs you nothing, but it earns you nothing either. On the battlefield, humility does not shield you from the sword. It invites the blade into your flesh. To be humble in war is to step forward unarmed, hoping your enemy will show mercy. They will not. They will strike. and you will bleed. And they will take your silence as proof that you never belonged among rulers. You still imagine that the future will reward you if you wait. You have been deceived by the illusion of time that tomorrow, or next year, or someday, your turn will come. This belief has drained your life of urgency. The truth is harsher. Tomorrow belongs to the man who seizes today. Delay is defeat. Waiting is surrender. I have watched rulers fall not because they lacked strength, but because they waited too long to strike. They wasted time calculating while their enemies advanced. They prayed for certainty while their rivals reshaped the terrain. On the battlefield, hesitation is death. And yet you hesitate. Why? Because you fear being called delusional. You fear ridicule. You fear being seen as arrogant, unreasonable, even insane. But do you not see? That is the very weapon of your enemy to shame you into restraint, to ridicule your ambition, until you cut it down yourself, to convince you that your vision must shrink until it fits their comfort. They know that if you dare to believe beyond evidence, you become unpredictable, dangerous, untouchable, and so they tame you with mockery, chain you with judgment, and feed you the narcotic of reason until you sleepwalk through life. You must break this spell. You must learn to wear delusion like armor, to wield it like a blade. Delusional self-belief is not weakness. It is offensive strategy. It forces the world to orient around your certainty. When you believe with such ferocity that failure becomes unthinkable, your enemies are the ones who begin to doubt. They retreat, not because you are stronger, but because you refuse to acknowledge weakness at all. Delusion is not madness. Delusion is dominance, projected so intensely that reality bends under its weight. Do not misunderstand me. This is not about foolish optimism or blind faith. That is the delusion of children. What I speak of is weaponized self-belief, cultivated with discipline, hardened with strategy, deployed with precision. It is not about ignoring reality. It is about commanding it. It is the general who convinces his starving army that they are invincible, and by convincing them, transforms them into an unstoppable force. It is the leader who proclaims victory before the battle begins, and by proclaiming it, infects both allies and enemies with the belief that defeat is impossible. This is psychological warfare at its highest level, but you are still blind. You still crave comfort. You still want someone to assure you that everything will be all right if you simply keep waiting. Keep hoping. Keep working quietly. You long for permission, for recognition, for the soothing hand of approval. That is why you lose. Because power does not wait to be given, it takes. Influence does not beg, it imposes. Success does not seek recognition, it demands submission. Your craving for comfort is the chain around your neck. Tear it off, or remain a slave. Look around you. Every structure you see, governments, religions, corporations, is built not on truth, but on delusion, enforced until it becomes reality. Entire nations move because leaders declare visions so grand, so impossible, so detached from reason, that the masses surrender their will in awe. And yet you, a single man, a single woman, cower at the thought of believing too much in yourself. You shrink while empires expand. You submit while frauds ascend. You rationalize your weakness while others weaponize theirs into power. The cost of this blindness is staggering. For every day you remain cautious, you lose ground to those who dare. For every hour you wait for proof, your rival sees another opportunity. For every moment you hesitate, you surrender your sovereignty to someone more ruthless. If you do not adopt delusional self-belief, you will be crushed by those who do. You will be outflanked, outmaneuvered, and consumed by enemies who understand that certainty is stronger than evidence. You will die with your reason intact, but your command erased. Now, hear me with clarity. If you wish to escape this fate, you must cultivate the ruthless discipline of delusional conviction, not a flickering hope, not a fragile affirmation, a relentless, unbreakable command of yourself that radiates through every gesture, every word, every glance. You must act as if inevitability is carved into your bones. You must speak with the tone of a general who has already conquered. You must hold your posture as if armies obey you, and when doubt whispers in your ear, you silence it with the roar of certainty. This will terrify you, because you have been trained to believe that delusion is dangerous. But understand this: delusion only destroys those who wield it without strategy. The madman believes without discipline and collapses under the weight of his fantasies. The strategist believes with precision, weaponizing delusion as a psychological spear. You must be the latter. Discipline your delusion. Feed it daily with ritual. Command your body to move as if destiny bends to you. Study the battlefield of your life as if victory has already been decreed. This is not mere belief. This is strategy disguised as belief. You want comfort. I will not give it. You want reassurance. You will not have it. You want certainty before you act. You will never receive it. The only certainty you can ever have is the one you generate yourself. Against reason, against evidence, against the trembling of your own flesh. That is delusional self-belief. That is Machiavellian power. That is the secret to untouchable success. You still hesitate because you cling to the illusion that reality is fixed. You think the world is concrete, immovable, determined by forces outside your command. You believe you are bound by circumstances, chained by fate, caged by what you call facts. But reality is not fixed. It is malleable. It bends to the will of those ruthless enough to hammer it into shape. And the hammer is not truth, not reason, not evidence. The hammer is delusional self-belief, wielded with discipline until resistance breaks. The masses live as prisoners of consensus. They believe only what is confirmed by others. They require validation before they act. They wait for the majority to agree before daring to step forward. This herd mentality is your enemy, because the herd suffocates power. The herd worships balance, humility, patience, and by worshipping these illusions, they hand their destiny to the few who dare to defy them. If you remain in the herd, you will die with them. If you step out, you become commander. The battlefield does not reward the collective mind. It rewards the audacious delusion of the individual who refuses to be bound. Do you think the generals who conquered continents waited for validation? Do you think they measured probabilities with trembling hands? No. They declared inevitability and marched. Even when reason warned them of disaster, their armies followed not because they calculated survival, but because they absorbed the delusion of their leader's certainty. Soldiers endurent starvation, exhaustion, and death. When they are convinced by the aura of invincibility radiating from command, that aura is not reason. It is delusional conviction, weaponized into discipline. You resist this truth because you fear the cost. You imagine delusional self-belief will make you reckless, destroy you, expose you to ruin. But hear me, you are already ruined by your caution. You are already defeated by your reason. Every day you waste, waiting for certainty, is a day handed to your rivals. Every doubt you indulge is a weapon against yourself. Every hesitation is a crack in your armor that will be exploited by those who dare to believe more than you. The cost of caution is heavier than the cost of delusion. You already bleed. You simply bleed slowly. You are afraid of being called arrogant. But arrogance is not the enemy. Arrogance is the mask you wear until you grow into command. You fear the word delusional as if it were a death sentence. But understand, that accusation is the proof that your belief has reached dangerous levels. When the herd calls you delusional, it is because you have begun to escape their cage. They will try to drag you back down. They will call you insane, reckless, unrealistic. Do not resist these names. Embrace them. Let their ridicule sharpen your resolve. When they call you delusional, you are on the correct path. You must learn to treat yourself as both commander and soldier. As commander, you issue the order of certainty. We advance, no matter what. As soldier, you obey it without hesitation. There is no room for negotiation between the two. If you allow your soldier self to doubt, you fracture the chain of command within your own mind. Discipline collapses. You must eliminate dissent within yourself with the same ruthlessness you would eliminate a traitor in your ranks. If you cannot command yourself, you cannot command anyone. Understand this: power is not about truth. It is about narrative. The battlefield belongs to those who dictate the story, not to those who observe it. You believe reality is objective. It is not. Reality is propaganda written by the victors. And propaganda is nothing more than delusion crystallized into public belief. When you embrace delusional self-belief, you seize control of the narrative. You no longer ask, "What is possible?" you declare, "What is inevitable?" And the world, conditioned to follow certainty, begins to obey. Your hesitation, your demand for proof, your worship of reason, these are not virtues. They are sabotage. They are the psychological equivalent of cutting your own supply lines before battle. You demand guarantees before you march. But no general has ever been given such luxury. Victory is not guaranteed. It is seized. And the weapon of seizure is certainty, wielded against uncertainty. Audacity, wielded against hesitation. Delusion, wielded against doubt. You still think you are protecting yourself by staying cautious. But in reality, you are disarming yourself before entering combat. You imagine you are avoiding danger, when in truth you are surrendering to it. The enemy advances while you retreat into thought. They do not wait for certainty. They move, and their movement defines the field. By the time you decide, the terrain is already theirs. You think you are rational, but you are merely late. Let me make it plain. If you do not cultivate delusional self-belief, you will remain a pawn. Pawns do not command. Pawns do not dictate terms. Pawns are sacrificed without hesitation for the advancement of those who lead. You can either continue in this role, or you can burn your identity as a pawn and seize the mantle of commander. But you cannot do both. You must choose. And if you choose to command, you must abandon the weak craving for reassurance. You must abandon the desperate need for certainty. You must abandon the illusion that truth will save you. You must learn to stand in the storm of doubt and declare, with cold precision, "I will not break." That declaration is not reason. It is delusion, weaponized into command. It is the only strategy that renders you untouchable. You may resist. You may still cling to the fantasy that balance, humility, and reason will protect you. But I tell you with merciless clarity, they will not. They will chain you. They will blind you. They will bury you. And while you die quietly, the ruthless will carve their names into history, wielding the very weapon you refuse to touch. You think you are protecting your sanity by avoiding delusion. But sanity is the herd's prison. The herd calls itself sane as it kneels in obedience. They call themselves rational as they wait for permission. They call themselves balanced as they surrender everything. And you believe this is virtue. It is not. It is defeat. It is the quiet rot of submission disguised as wisdom. You must embrace delusion not as madness, but as armor. You must wear it so convincingly that even your enemies hesitate before you. You must project it so ruthlessly that even reality itself bends to it. That is how kings rise. That is how empires expand. That is how you, one man, one woman, can seize command of your life. The weapon is in your hand. The only question is whether you will wield it. You have now seen the truth laid bare, stripped of illusion, carved open with a blade too sharp for comfort. And yet, even now, I know you resist. You want to cling to the last fragments of your fragile safety. You whisper to yourself that perhaps balance is better. Perhaps reason has some secret power you have not yet discovered. Perhaps you can escape the battlefield altogether. Let me crush that hope before it poisons you further. There is no escape. You are already on the battlefield. You were born into it. Every day you wake, you are under attack by competitors, by manipulators, by rivals, by the machinery of power itself. You cannot withdraw. You can only fight, or you can be on your knees. You may think I exaggerate. I do not. Look at your life. Every decision is already a campaign. Every interaction a maneuver. Every hesitation a concession of territory. You live in war, even as you pretend you do not. Others are already advancing on your position. They are already outflanking you in silence. They are already building fortresses of perception that will reduce you to irrelevance. And you still clinging to reason will discover too late that the field has been lost. The resources taken. The command stolen. You will be left scavenging scraps while they dictate the terms of your surrender. So I tell you, the only weapon strong enough to seize control in this endless war is delusional self-belief. Cold, disciplined, ruthless. The belief that bends your spine straight, that steals your voice, that silences hesitation. It does not matter whether it is true. It matters only that it radiates with such force that others submit before it. This is not comfort. This is war doctrine. Machiavellian strategy dictates that perception is power, and perception is born of certainty. He who appears invincible is obeyed as though he is invincible. He who hesitates, no matter his truth, is trampled as though already defeated. If you remain passive, you pay the cost in blood. If you remain cautious, you pay the cost in irrelevance. If you remain realistic, you pay the cost in chains. The enemy of your rise is not their strength, but your doubt. The true battlefield is your own mind. If you do not crush your hesitation, you will be conquered without a fight. You will become another anonymous casualty in history's endless war for command. But if you seize the delusional self-belief, if you adopt it as discipline, ritual, weapon, then you become untouchable. Not because you cannot be struck, but because every strike rebounds against the aura of inevitability you project. Your enemies begin to question themselves. Your rivals hesitate. Even the terrain seems to bend in your favor, because you move as though the outcome is already decreed. This is how rulers emerge from obscurity. This is how pawns become commanders. This is how you can become something more than the obedient servant you were trained to be. Do not misunderstand me. This path is merciless. It will demand that you abandon comfort forever. It will demand that you kill the weak voice within you that begs for reassurance. It will demand that you silence your own doubts with the discipline of a tyrant crushing rebellion. You must treat your hesitation as treason and execute it without delay. Only then will you be free. There is no middle ground. There is no compromise. You cannot be half delusional. You cannot be sometimes certain and sometimes doubtful. On the battlefield, hesitation infects the entire army like disease. One fracture in the chain of command, and the campaign collapses. You must choose absolute commitment, or you must accept absolute defeat. There is no third option. So now I bring you to the final command. You must decide whether you will continue to live as you are rational, cautious, obedient, irrelevant, or whether you will ignite the fire of delusional self-belief and march into command. You must decide whether you will continue as pawn or seize the throne of your own destiny. Do not lie to yourself. Do not delay. Every moment you hesitate, your enemy gains ground. Every second you wait, the battle tilts further against you. The time is now. You stand on the edge of the campaign. On one side lies your current path. Obscurity, submission, endless calculation, slow suffocation. On the other lies command, certainty, dominance, untouchable success. The choice is yours. But understand this, if you do not choose command, then you have already chosen surrender. Silence is surrender. Caution is surrender. Reason is surrender. I, Machiavelli, tell you with brutal clarity, the only path to power is delusional self-belief weaponized into discipline. The only path to influence is certainty imposed until the world obeys. The only path to untouchable success is to abandon the weak illusions that bind you and march forward with ruthless conviction. So I leave you with the uncompromising call to action. Stop waiting. Stop calculating. Stop kneeling. Stand up. Seize the mantle of command. Declare your inevitability, even if the evidence screams against you. Move as if destiny itself marches at your side. Become delusional enough to terrify doubt into silence. Become disciplined enough to make that delusion unbreakable. Become ruthless enough to bend reality beneath it. You are at war. Choose now. Remain a pawn, or become untouchable.